you all. All right, first item on the agenda for open is the consent agenda. Can I get approval for the consent agenda, please?
I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Question? Voice vote, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it, consent agenda is approved. Next up, celebration of excellence. I believe we have some friends here from Taylor Prairie for Week of the Young Child, Month of the Young Child. I'm so excited. Come on up, Mrs. Foster and friends.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Dawn May, and I serve as TOSA at Taylor Prairie School. I'm honored to be here this evening alongside one of our 4K teachers, Sarah Steiney, our principal, Emily Foster, and 5 incredible young scholars who represent the heart of our early learning program. We are here tonight in recognition of Month of the Young Child, a celebration where schools, child care centers, and community organizations engaged in themed events and hands-on activities that highlight the importance of early childhood education. These include Music Monday, Tasty Tuesday, Work Together Wednesday, Artsy Thursday, and Family Friday. Our slideshow showcases just a few of the joyful and meaningful moments from these special days.
All right, we have about 250 4K and, just wait for the kids. We can let you know. Yeah, we have about 250 4K and kindergarten kiddos at Taylor Prairie School, and they all would have loved to have been here tonight. It's a really fun month because we get to celebrate all of our learners and celebrate their families and their educators too. And it also reaffirms our commitment to giving children the best possible start that we can in their educational career. So tonight, we're lucky to have one of our former students, Bella, who is now a 3rd grader. So she's here to kind of reflect back on her experiences and give you a little overview. And then we have 4 of our kindergarten friends here tonight. We have Rowan, Dylan, Ivana, and Lily. And I want to thank their families for getting them here tonight. Thank you, parents. Yes, and I will turn it over to Bella.
I am Bella, a former student at Taylor Prairie School and now a 3rd grader at Granite Ridge School. My sister Lily goes to Taylor Prairie School currently. I want to tell you about what Month of the Young Child is about. Month of the Young Child is based on Week of the Young Child. Week of the Young Child is an annual celebration sponsored by the National Association for the Education of the Young Children, the world's largest early childhood education association. The purpose of the Week of the Young Child is to focus on public attention on the needs of young children and their families and recognizes the early childhood programs and services that meet those needs. NAEYC first established the Week of the Young Child in 1971, recognizing that early childhood years, birth through age 8, lay the foundation for children's success in school and later life. The Week of the Young Child is a time to plan how we, as citizens of a community, of a state, and a nation, will better meet the needs of all young children and their families. We thought instead just a week of celebrating, let's make it a whole month of it. Considering young children are the heart of Taylor Prairie School.
Nice job, Bella. That was really good. Wow. Thank you, public speaker. All right, friend, you're up.
Hi, my name is Rowan. I am in kindergarten at Taylor Prairie. Music Mondays are for music. We made tambourines. Miss Eliza sang to us at snack and lunchtime. I liked when Miss Eliza sang to us because she has a pretty voice.
Rowan, those earrings are everything.
Hi. Hi, my name is Dylan, and I go to Taylor Perry Kindergarten School. Tasty Tuesdays are for tasting. We had a picnic on the playground. I love Domino Pizza because it is good.
Donna. I like those cat ears.
Hi, my name is Ivana. I am a kindergarten Tyler Prairie School. Wednesdays are for working together. Together on coloring pages. We had scavenger hunt. I liked. What did you like?
Like the coloring or the scavenger hunt?
Coloring.
You like the coloring?
Yeah, that sounds really fun. Thank you for sharing about the scavenger hunt.
Hi, my name is Lily. I am in kindergarten at Taylor Prairie. Artsy Thursdays are for art. We read the book Hair Love. We had Hair Love Day and everyone will. Their favorite style. I wear my hair with a pom-pom.
Cute. I love Hair Love. That's such a great book.
Hi. On Fridays, we celebrate our families through a special project we call the Home Life Exhibit. Each child is invited to bring an item from home that represents something special about their family. They then share that story, the story behind the item with their classmates, and we add it to our school-wide exhibit. It's a beautiful way to honor each child's unique background and strengthen our sense of community. This evening, our students will share the items they brought from home and what those items mean to them.
I brought my turtle.
Does it have a name?
No.
No, it's just turtle. Where'd you get it?
I got it from a family trip and I went to St. Lucia.
Ooh, wow. That's a fancy turtle. What'd you bring for us? Who's in your family?
Mommy and Daddy and you, are they here too?
Wow, is that them right there? Hi, Mom and Dad, thanks for coming.
My item is my puppy.
But wait, where is it? Oh, it's a picture. You didn't bring the puppy in, huh?
I found the puppy's name.
Simba.
Simba, like the Lion King. Love it. What kind of puppy is it? Do you know?
A mini golden doodle.
Oh my gosh, they're the best. Is it so
favorite.
silly? Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you. Mr. Dillon, what you got for us?
I bought a painting that my mom made for me.
You say she made that for you or gave it to you?
She gave it to me.
She, Wow, that is beautiful. What do you like about it?
The designs.
Yeah, I like the designs too. It's so swirly. Would you mind? Would it be okay if you walked around and showed it to everybody so we could get a closer look at it?
Colors.
That is beautiful. Your mom is quite talented, Dylan. You are quite talented, Dylan's mom. Thank you, friends, for sharing all your special things from home.
This concludes our presentation. A heartfelt thank you to the parents for bringing their children here tonight and for supporting them and sharing their joy, their voices, and their stories with us. We want to say thank you to the Cottage Grove School Family Organization for funding many of our projects, and thank you to the board for your continued support of the Month of the Young Child and your steadfast commitment to early learning across our district. Thank you.
Great job, friends. Thank you for coming and sharing all of that. And thanks for all the great information about Month of the Young Child. I learned so many things. So thank you again. Board friends, do you have any questions for the young people? Sorry, you can take the girl out of early childhood education, but you can't take the early childhood education out of the girl. Any questions or comments for our friends? Yeah.
Just thank you. Thanks for coming in and putting the effort in. This was great.
Taylor Prairie is a really special place. You all do an amazing job there. So thank you for all of the amazing love and care that you give to our youngest learners. It's a happy place to be.
Good job, team.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you again, parents. All right, it is a double celebration day today. We have a second celebration of excellence around our Focus on Energy Award. So Tanya?
Yes, so we were notified that Monona Grove received the 2025 Energy Efficiency Excellent Award from the Focus on Energy Group. And this award recognizes our work in sustainability and energy efficiency in our operations. So I know that there's been long-term planning that has happened in this district from a energy conservation perspective, cross-department collaboration. So it's a great honor to be able to say that this award was given. I know that Peter Sobel was a big part of this work as he worked with past administration and the district as a whole towards this area. So just kudos to them, and it's a nice celebration that we have as we close out that project.
Yeah, it's really exciting to be able to do that. And I just want to spend a couple of minutes talking about Peter specifically because he really led this initiative. He worked really hard on acquiring grants and moving us through and thinking through policy. He was unable to be at tonight's meeting. He's recovering from surgery. And we just want to be able to say to him, because this is his last meeting as a board member, we really appreciate all of his work and service and dedication that he's given to our district over many years at this point. And to me, the sustainability components of it are a lasting legacy for him that is not only good for our district, but also good for our community, good for our youth, good for the earth, and really exemplifies, I think, the values that we hold here. So if we could just get a little round of applause for Peter for his service in absentia. All right. Hi, Lena, you're up.
Awesome. Let's see if this, check. All right, so
check one, two.
Starting off very strong with the arts, again, as always, with an event that many of you might have been at, and this is Strings Fest. So a record-breaking 614, the most that we've had any year. Last year we had 599, so just shy. But this year we surpassed. Middle and high school strings players and their adoring fans packed into the Monona Grove High School gym last month for a night of music and color celebration. So this Strings Fest was themed Hues and Harmony, bringing students of all ages together playing songs centered around colors. So the night featured a real live bubble machine and a handmade yellow submarine that I believe some of our 6th grade players made.
It was so good.
It really was. It really completed the song, like a 3D thing.
Yeah.
And that accompanied every player playing the Beatles song Yellow Submarine, if you could guess. So lastly, the students played Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, which is Ode to Joy, to continue a new Strings Fest tradition and celebrate music making joy in our district. This weekend was also the Monona Grove spring production of Footloose. The show was a huge effort on behalf of the cast, direction team. We had so many parent volunteers and crew members involved, as well as the pit, and we put on a beautiful finished product. We also pride ourselves on a no-cut program, which means that every single student who wanted to be involved could be involved, and that resulted in almost 90 students being involved in the cast, the crew, and the pit, as well as however many their neighbors, their friends, and their families who were touched by the production. So we had 5 public community shows, one of which was sold out, and we also put on a special performance exclusively for Glacial Drumlin students, which was packed. So moving on to HOSA, last month, HOSA students hosted a blood drive at the high school, collecting 78 units of blood. And these 78 units have the potential to save as many as 234 lives. This is not the first blood drive that HOSA's done. I believe they've done 3 this year, but you might want to fact check me. HOSA also brought 12 members to compete at the state conference, where students showcased their medical science and skills knowledge among over 1,000 other Wisconsin students. And 5 of our members, as well as the first ever members from MG HOSA, placed in the top 5 and qualified for the national competition in Nashville. Last month, over 200 young kids, I did see some of our friends there, over 200 of them came to the high school on a Saturday for DECA's Family Fun Day, a day of fun and games for families and to socialize and whatnot. So guests could play real live Mario Kart, run through obstacle courses, do arts and crafts, get their face painted, and even run through a real live bouncy house. The day was a blast for kids and their families, as well as the volunteers who were there, and DECA definitely plans to continue the tradition in the years to come. So recently, the high school's Black Student Union presented to the Glacial Drumlin Students of Color Union. This was March 27th. So 8 of our high school BSU members were available to answer questions from younger students, talk about their experiences being students of color in our high school. And together the groups ate breakfast, and even sang happy birthday for one member's 12th birthday. The Monona Grove forensics team also competed last weekend. They brought 7 competitors to state, which was at UW-Madison. And 3 members won gold with perfect scores, 1 won silver, and 3 won bronze medals in their various events, and every single member placed. For sports, girls soccer had a grueling tryout session, including running the mile and the pacer test. But now their season is officially underway. They have played their first official conference game as well as a couple others and have a current 4-2 record while being undefeated in conference. Also, MG softball had a great spring break. They traveled to Tennessee to play at the Ripken Experience, and the team won 1 out of 4 games against top competition and also hit 2 in the park home runs, which I think is pretty impressive. The team did have the challenge of having no running water in their Airbnb, but on a high note, they came out of it with some roller coaster time, so it kind of balances itself out. Yes. Oh, and then I'd also like to share some of my data from the last report.
Yeah.
So the questions that I asked in March were focused on academic rigor in our high school, which I feel is a pretty important topic. And so the first question I asked was, do you feel the workload and challenge in your classes prepares you for future academic or career goals? Why or why not? And then I asked, what factors motivate you to challenge yourself with more difficult academic material? So the responses were pretty mixed, as you might imagine. So I have one senior saying, yes, I feel there are so many classes that students can take in the area of work that they're thinking of going into that also provides a good amount of work similar to college that helps prepare us. And this really correlates with some of the main takeaways that I saw students writing down is that they correlate like academic challenge with readiness later in their life. So if they're being challenged, then they feel like they'll be ready. However, as high school students would think, they like that challenge when they get to choose it. So students really expressed wanting more autonomy in their course choices, as well as really appreciating AP classes for their challenge. You have one junior saying, I feel challenged in my AP classes, but not my normal classes, which does make sense. And then you, of course, had one freshman saying, no, because the things I learn have nothing to do with the real world. There are quite a few like that, but we did have some really positive as well as some more constructive feedback. And then just going down to this image here for question 2, students were mainly concerned when they were challenging themselves with difficult academic material. I'm sorry that those responses aren't full, but the first one says, I want to prepare for college, like expectations and workload, as well as the other highest hitter was improving one's GPA and academic standing within the school. And then my takeaways are listed down below again. Thanks. Any questions with that?
Yeah, what questions or comments do we have for Lena today? Yes.
How many responses did you get?
192.
Good. Wow. Yeah.
Good.
Great. Other questions or comments for Lena? Congratulations on a successful musical.
It was so much fun. Yeah. Thanks.
I appreciate, as always, 2 Question Tuesday. I'm glad that the engagement still continues to be high. And I really like this question. I like that we're thinking about those pieces, and it'll be interesting to see kind of, where that goes. Do you have a sense for what your next 2 questions are going to be?
Not specifically, but I think I want to follow up on these, especially since the responses were so mixed. I kind of want to get a feel for like where students are leaning with those.
Yeah.
So I'll think on that.
Yeah,
but
like
I think I want to continue this topic because there haven't been very many where I've done like a follow-up, and I think that allows for more of a deeper look, which I'm excited to get.
Awesome. Well, great work as always, Lena.
Thank you.
Yeah, Susan.
So you aren't going to sing a song?
Would you like me to?
You missed that. That was a great show. Great show. Thank you so much.
All right, moving on to public appearances. Our first speaker is Elsa, is it Buthling? It's Boitling. Boitling, thank you, and I'm sorry.
Okay.
You can sit if you want to, or if you prefer to stand, you're welcome to stand. It's like sort of a dealer's choice situation. And then Tish will be keeping an eye on the time, and so just be mindful of that, and welcome.
Awesome. Hi, my name is Elsa Boitling, and I am a freshman at Monona Grove High School, and I am here today in part to show support for the Monona Grove Music Education Program. As many of you know, we have a very robust music education program that helps many students find success within high school and in the future, and I think that this program must be protected as we look into our future budget cuts and as we make way into this new evolution of MGSD. We must preserve our music education as it provides a safe space for so many students. Segueing in, I also think that something that should be addressed is the way that our new budget cuts are affecting high school students. I have seen a lot of almost turmoil at MGHS in the recent months this year. A lot of the class cuttings have come after students chose their courses for last year, which is obviously in consideration with what needs to be done quickly. But this has caused a lot of turmoil, especially in the student services department, where they're having to scramble to replace kids' classes without being able to notify them or their parents beforehand. And obviously this provides a huge detriment because throughout ACP courses, students are made to choose their courses that they would like to take for their whole high school career, and having a lot of these essential courses disappear entirely, I think kind of negates that purpose and will leave them throughout the rest of their experience after high school with a little bit less than some of the surrounding districts. So I hope that you as the school board will take this into consideration and look for better communication with MGHS students and their families about how we are addressing these budget cuts, working for clear communication for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for speaking today. Sparkle, next speaker, can you move one of the microphones? Thanks. All right, next up is Nate Vack. Hello, Nate.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. Please speak directly into the microphone.
Yeah, because otherwise it's really difficult to hear on the stream.
Yeah, that makes sense. So my name is Nate Vack, and I am a parent of a middle schooler and a high schooler. And when I signed up to speak here, my plan was to express support for the Monona Grove music program and strings specifically. And to be clear, I do want to do that. That program has changed both of my girls' life trajectories in very positive ways. But yesterday, I spent really an incredibly generous amount of time on the phone with Superintendent Frederick, and she spent a long time answering questions and explaining things to me, and it was very generous and helpful, and thank you. And since then, I've been wondering, how could I learn this information for myself? The budget section on the website says, hey, what does it say? There are difficult decisions ahead, and for details, it directs me to board meetings, recordings, agendas, presentations. And the thing I've learned over the past few weeks is that to understand that information, you need deep expertise. You guys have that. As a parent, I don't. For example, in a recent presentation about this topic to the board, I heard things like, we're right-sizing the staff, we're returning to established policy, following licensure, and we aren't cutting programming. And as a parent, this all sounds super easy, super painless, super reasonable. Of course, our staff should be the right size, and we should follow our own policies. And licensure, obviously that means teachers are teaching things they're comfortable teaching, and we're not cutting programming, so that means the same classes are going to be offered that we always would have offered. And to be clear, I'm not criticizing those statements. They just have specific technical meaning that I don't know. They're public record, but they're not for the community. So what I think a lot of people need is a clear, unvarnished understanding of what these changes mean to education in the district for their kids. My understanding is that in high school, at least, this means we're not going to teach 20 plus classes that they would have taught in past years, and that teachers are being asked to teach in areas where they don't feel confident, licensure or not. I'm not saying that the district should not have made these decisions. I can't make that call. I'm saying that we need to know this, and we needed to know this way before actual changes started happening. Teachers need to know the district is aware that it's making a huge ask, and to detail the ways we're ready to support them and ask them to help each other. Parents need to know their students are going to be taught by teachers who may not be super confident and experienced in their new roles, and that we may need to support learning more ourselves than we've been used to. And students need to know the courses they've chosen might not be available, even though they were in previous years. Inferring this stuff from board docs is not enough. It's not okay. Posting it to the website would not be enough. Families should have gotten this information from the district in many ways because it's so critical. Email, physical mail, newspaper articles. You should be shouting this from the rooftops because it's super important. To rebuild trust with the community, the district needs a communication plan to reach out to the community and explain all of this in clear, plain, understandable language on a frequent and timely basis. Thank you for your time.
All right, next up is Heather Hayward. Hi, Heather, welcome.
My name is Heather Hayward. I am a parent of a junior at the high school, and I wanted to just kind of reiterate what has been said about music education. It is my daughter's career path, and this year she was able to be in the music theory class, and had she not been able to be in that, she might not have now taken a different path toward not only music performance, but music arranging. She was able to arrange a piece for the choir and her a cappella choir with a grad student at UW-Madison, and was able to present at his dissertation presentation, which was awesome. And it is really just broadening her understanding of what music can be for her. And my understanding is next year there is not going to be a music theory class. And that is greatly disappointing to me and to her. So I just felt like it was my responsibility to come and address you and say, if there's any way to reconsider some of these decisions that are being made, I think it's hurting some of our kids based on enrollment of a class that's way smaller than any of the other classes. So that's just my thoughts. Thanks.
Thank you. Next up, Ida, is it Sabotek? Sabotek. Welcome, Ida.
Thank you. I guess I'll start off by just asking whether this is, maybe Dr. Frederick, if this was discussed like behind closed doors, or whether I should just share of what I wrote in the email earlier today with the rest of the board. This is my first meeting, so I'm not quite sure what is appropriate to.
Yeah, so anyone from the public can come and do public comment. You have 3 minutes to talk about whatever you want to. I understand that you're here to kind of talk specifically around some of your contract pieces, which was agendized in the consent agenda and approved, but was not, the nature of the content of what you had emailed earlier was not discussed in closed session. So you are welcome to share.
It's a personnel issue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's a personnel issue, I guess. I would just like to request that the penalty for breaking teacher contract be waived for me. I read and deeply considered the email that was sent by the district on February 11th, requesting teachers to resign or retire this year due to the budget cuts. At that time, we also received information that new hires, more recent hires, would last in, first out kind of deal. And I have been deeply concerned about a close colleague of mine who recently was hired due to the unexpected death of Charlie Ping. She moved across the state and has devoted her life to be working for this district, and was now at risk of losing her position, 0.7 of a position. And so I began job search. There was a position open in February, and it closed on Friday, the day that I submitted my letter of resignation. Now, this is a non-teaching position, and so it is, I asked repeatedly the new employer to wait until mid-June, until my teaching contract was over, but unfortunately, they're unable to. The position is at UW-Madison, and they are having a new HR program software, so there can be no new hires during June and July. And so I must start in May. And so because of the situation with the request, and I would not have started the search without that email, I request that the financial penalty be waived for me. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, our last speaker today is Jennifer Krug. Oh, is it a G?
Every time.
Oh, I'm sorry. I would never, but I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Welcome.
Thank you. So my name is Jennifer Krug, and I'm the parent of a junior who's enrolled at MG High School. And if you saw me get my readers out, it's just like in Footloose this week. So my child is heavily involved in what I like to call the fine arts wing of the high school. Along that corridor, she's been enrolled in concert choir, bell, canto choir, drawing and painting 1, 2, and this year AP 2D art. She's found wonderful instructional staff who work to bring out the best in her. She is also in Spanish 4 and has had 14 years of Spanish instruction beginning when she was 3 years old. And I've mentioned that because of the comment before about notification and communication to parents about changes in instruction. There will not be a Spanish 5 next year, which is the kind of what I'm going to call the joint college credit course that would have allowed her basically to earn a minor if she went to a Wisconsin school once she finished Spanish 5. So because she's got to go to AP, she has this whole opportunity for earning credits after going through the placement and all that kind of stuff. But bottom line, communication was bad. I learned about it from a junior and not my own kid. The reason why I'm sharing this information is I have concerns about the allocation process that has taken place. The class of 2026 is 25 to 30 students smaller than the rising juniors and sophomores. The volume of senior students next year will lend itself to lower numbers enrolling in higher level courses in both music and art, as well as other courses such as the assistant childcare teacher, photography 3, accounting 2. Until you reach your junior and senior years of high school, your elective course selection is limited. If you want a study hall, it's even less. My kid hasn't had a study hall many years because she had 1 choir class, 1 art class, and foreign language. So getting to your senior year is a big deal when you get to make choices about the classes that you're going to take that will inform the college career that you have intended to go through, whether it's career or secondary ed. So she has 3 courses right now that will not be held at this time. So as I looked on the website today, engaged learning where equity is prioritized is the Monona Grove School District's mission. Equity in education ensures every student has the resources they need to achieve their full potential. And to me, that also includes having courses available to you that will strengthen and help you build on what you need for your career or college. I expect that she will be in music performance, music education, or somewhere along that line. Lena knows. But without a simple class like music theory, she goes to college without that basic information that she's going to need to help strengthen her and help her along the way. So, the same can be said for art classes. Canceling courses or looking at allocations simply because they don't reach a number that is similar to English 10 doesn't work when you're dealing with specialized courses and things that have lower numbers, just in general. So I do know these are difficult decisions. She wears it on her face every day and on her shoulders about how difficult this is, and I appreciate that. But we have to be careful that we're not shutting down these opportunities just because we're a few students short. And we can't be basing high school graduation and college prep on whether or not a class makes for what can be considered an arbitrary number. So with that, thank you to those who are in attendance that have supported our Silver Eagles at their choir concerts, the high school musicals, Silver Stage Show Choir, and the recent Strings Festival. The level of musicianship is because we value the instruction and provide opportunities for the students at MG. If we simply start cutting courses, we're going to lose out on so much more. And in a couple weeks, there'll be an AP art exhibit too at the Monona Public Library, and I really encourage you to go see that as well. So, thank you. That's what?
APR is being cut as well.
I know. Yep. Thank you.
Yep.
Hi. Moving on to discussion items. First discussion item 1 is district benchmark comparables. Dr. Frederick, I believe you're kicking us off here.
Yeah, so as we've been having conversations about a lot of things, whether it be class size, pay, course offerings, all of the different things, we've been having conversations around what does it look like to have some benchmark districts, about gathering information that informs kind of the regional impact and influence. And so what you'll find here is a key work process that was put together to think about how we would come up with that. And really the formula we reused was academic achievement, geographic proximity, and then also enrollment size. And so as you can see, around academic achievement, we really looked at what does that mean from a perspective of academic achievement on school report cards, and looking at proficiency in ELA math, and then also 11th grade composite ACT scores. The other thing that we did was around geographic proximity, really thinking about when families are looking for a home, or when people are looking for jobs, what typically areas do they look in? And so this was a piece of information that we used also. And then the third one was to look at enrollment. There are some districts in the area that maybe people would look at, but we kept it at least 2,000 as a minimum. And then we did go up from there. And so you can see that we landed on DeForest, McFarland, Middleton, Oregon, Sun Prairie, Verona, Waunakee, and then Monona Grove. We have had conversations, particularly around salary and wages, about why Madison isn't considered one of the benchmarks. I think there's a lot of different reasons. One, just the sheer size. It is a very, very large system. The other thing is the academic comparisons. It does have a lower proficiency scores, some of those things. However, we think it's important to keep it on the radar because we do border them. Right? And so we know that families and employees may look at that. So while not putting them in our average, just really being sure to keep them on our radar. So if you, thank you, Tish. If you look at the attachment, you can see a couple different things. So you can see where Monona Grove is on the top, and then the other districts that would be our benchmark comparisons go from there. So, we want to look at districts that are meeting or exceeding expectations. You can see the enrollment. That ELA proficiency is the composite score of 3rd through 8th grade. ELA composite, so that's the number of students that are proficient in on forward. And these data points are from spring of 2024. Kids are currently taking the forward test right now. ACT is done. We do have one makeup test we're waiting on. And as soon as we get that one in, then we'll be able to see what the 2025 spring 11th grade ACT looks like. So that will be good. So you can see that there. From a ranking perspective, one of the things that we really look at are who are districts that we want to learn from, what are districts we want to chase, and where do we want to be in this pack. So as you can see, we've got some work to do when it comes to all of those areas. We range out of the 8, we sit 6th or 7th. So, we've talked about it in this boardroom since July about where we're falling academically. This isn't trend data. This is just one point in time. We can put we've looked at some trend data. We can continue to look at that. But on an annual basis, we would like to bring this in the board and share. These are the benchmark districts. So then when we talk about comparables or comparisons, whatever we might be talking about, these would be the districts that we would pull from for information. So I am going to pause there and see what questions there might be.
Questions or comments? Eric.
Well, I think it's important to, strive to be better for a district. I don't like comparatives in education because Monona Grove is a dual district, and these are all different places to live. They're different demographics, they're different problems, different strengths. So I, of course, am invested in our district to always improve, but I'm less concerned about comparing to other districts. So that's just how I feel about it. So I guess the emphasis that I'd like to see is more on our improvement, where we are now, and how can we improve those numbers, more than saying, oh, we're 7, or we're 2, or we're 3,
I appreciate that, Eric. Thank you. Yes, Susan.
I just, again, I think this is really great, and I think it's really important that we do this. And I strongly support this. Use of comparables and then using data assessments. Again, that's what we do in healthcare, and that's how we improve saving lives. And I think this is a piece of that. The only question I have was, And I went back and looked for it, so you may not be able to find it either. But the board had approved a list of comparables several years ago, and those were the ones we used. And I just wondered how those comparables related to these. But I think your use of criteria speaks to why you would use these. But I was just mildly curious about any weird.
Yeah, the only thing I ever found was just the Dane County districts, right? So all the districts in Dane County.
We use specific comparables.
I don't think it's accurate to say, Susan, that those were board approved comparables. And I would
were at the way back when.
I would defer to Eric's. If you have acknowledged this, we have used comparables when setting compensation, particularly for administrators. That's a really common practice for us. But I do not recall, at least in my time on the board, an open session conversation around approving comparables.
And I think it's.
I'm curious, Eric's perspective.
Well, I was just
on
going to say, I think it's appropriate since it was that long ago and we can't obtain that information that we just move forward. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
One thing that I think would be interesting, if it's not terribly difficult to get, would be, and first of all, I think these are the right districts. I like the list, but I'd be kind of curious to have some sort of rolling enrollment, growth or growth percentage for each of the districts. I think it'd be interesting to not only know how many students are statically enrolled at the snapshot, but have they grown 12% over the last 3 years versus, a different district in the list grew 2% over the last 3 years, and maybe a different one grew 0%. I think that could be potentially interesting as we consider them as comparable districts.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's easy to get, but
we could do it annually, right? Because really the official number that everyone uses is third Friday count. And then that's the point in time, so you can see where the growth is happening or not.
a 3-year running average or 5-year running, something like that, just to show sort of the trend, the trajectory of each district would be interesting.
Rochelle.
I just wanted to chime in kind of as to what Eric had said, is I do appreciate seeing what our neighboring communities are doing, just for the fact that our kids are going to be competing for some of the same jobs and school positions. So we want to kind of know how we're doing in that regard. So I appreciate the selection of communities we're looking at.
Thoughts? I agree that this is the right list. I appreciate the keeping an eye on Madison, but recognizing the fact that a direct comparable to Madison doesn't make sense for a variety of reasons. I am also, in agreement with both Rochelle and Eric that I think it's useful to keep an eye on what's happening around us because this is a pool of folks that our kids are competing with. And at the end of the day, I don't want us to be in a position where we're thinking about or overemphasizing, right, or chasing another district when really it's about how do we take this information that we have, take the numbers that we have, and be able to move them forward. And when we end up on top, we can go, yeah, we did that and it was amazing because of the work that we did in and of itself. So I think it's important, and always with a little bit of caution around making sure that we're not overemphasizing and being unnecessarily competitive with neighboring districts. And so I think that's just a word of caution anytime you're looking at comparables. 2 questions. One, is the expectation that these are the comparables that we're going to be using then for salary benchmarking as well? And then the second question is, did you talk about other important data points outside of academic achievement? So attendance or graduation rates or AP classes offered, especially in light of the comments that we had today.
Yeah, so hold on, let me pull up the document. So, I think, I can't put my hands on it. I think, things that we really need to look at is chronic absenteeism. We have a much higher rate of chronic absenteeism than most of these districts. But right? I was trying to keep it in a funnel of criteria. But there are other benchmarks that we could, or other columns that we could add to this. Chronic absenteeism is really, really high here. That's being absent 10 or more days for any reason. We know the impact there. Kids, we should be tracking students that participate in extracurricular activities. 5 hours for middle school, at least 10 hours, right? Are you in a club? Are you in an activity? Like, what is your engagement? That's really important. And then also thinking about work experiences that our high school kids have. Like, we have a very robust set of things that kids do to get different. So there's a
College access.
Yeah. So when you think about career, college, and life ready indicators, there is a series of them. And so by fall, we'll be bringing some of those forward to be thinking about how do we get at a holistic picture of kids that is beyond, point in time number, but then also other things that we engage in. The high school has done a great job of increasing the amount of students who are taking the step to take an AP class. Take the exam or not the issue. Did you try it? Did you put yourself in that arena to experience a course that is like a college course? So just some really great indicators that I think we can continue to build on that move us past a point in time academic marker.
Yeah, and I do feel like, so Joe Schneider's had a number of presentations here over the last couple of years, and I do feel like he is doing a really great job of continuing to track the extracurriculars too. So if we can get that outside of just that one report too, to your point around sort of what does it look like to be, what is the student experience here, and what does it look like to be a whole person in our district?
And we do track that for 6th through 8th grade also, because we really want to think about what does engagement look like there.
Yeah.
And then elementary, we don't have a ton of extracurricular kind of activities, but that might be an opportunity for us to think of. Some of the buildings have chess club, they have different things that they do. So work to come.
Yeah. I have one more question, but I'll pause to see if any other board members have additional questions or comments.
Just a comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Janice.
I understand that Madison is a lot bigger, but at least when it comes to, like competing for staff, they're right next door. So like having them as, someone we can look at is probably still useful.
Yeah, they really average off real far when you do the math. So, always part of the conversation.
And then I'm just curious about the communication and collaboration around this list with MGEA and our staff.
Yeah, I think the level of collaboration we've had around this list so far has been around compensation. And so it really hasn't gone much further than thinking about their leadership team that annually talks about their base wage. So that's where as we talked about the districts, this is what we've been pulling. And, I think we're going to agree to disagree on Madison. But I think these are the, I know, I'm aware. Giving me the big thumbs up. But the other districts are one we've been pulling from. Yeah. Now, Madison.
But outside of Madison, we're comfortable and in agreement. Perfect. That's great. Thank you for your work on this, because I know it's been really important. It's been something that we've been focusing on for a little while now. So nice work to administration and MGEA to come up with a place. And we'll just pin Madison for a perpetual discussion.
Exactly.
Awesome. Anything else on this discussion item? Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, next up, the 2023-2024 audit summary. Hello, Kristen. Nice to see you today.
Good to see you all.
Kristen and I are wearing our matching jackets.
I know. I told them on the way up. No one gave me the memo of like light blue, big button, and I'm a little
MG blue.
Feeling sad. Lena did give me a compliment today, so Janice got the memo.
Yeah.
Great. Great. Glad
well, on that happy note, how's the audit, Kristen?
The conversation. So I'm here tonight to talk about the 23-24 audit summary that was presented to the F&O committee on March 19th, the audit itself, and they also requested that I put together a summary, which is before you today. So the 23-24 audit last year was completed by Whipfly. Typically the audit firm comes and gives a presentation to, either the F&O committee or the board. They did decline to present the audit this year. We do have a new audit firm for next year, Clifton Larson Allen. That was approved at the board meeting on the 19th of February, and our new principal with CLA is Jake Linnell. And Jake will be out for a board workshop on April 30th, I believe, for the board to ask additional questions about the 24-25 audit, and perhaps some questions about 23-24 if you have more questions from an audit standpoint. It was delayed due to incomplete bank reconciliations. I think we've talked about that in prior months regarding the budget. We did identify a prior year variance of $327,000. So we did expense that at the end of fiscal 23-24 so we could finalize those bank reconciliations. Sorry. The summary of the audit reports, the audit does contain a clean opinion. It's called unmodified, which means that there's no misstatements. They've reviewed our financial statements and they are in order. They also do a report on our major federal and state programs, which would be flow through, our food nutrition, those types of programs, and those were also clean opinions. We did have a material weakness related to account reconciliations that weren't provided on a timely basis, and that's been the same finding since 2019. The audit itself does contain a section that shows a budgetary comparison, so it looks at what we budgeted versus where we ended. This from a Fund 10 standpoint, shows you from a revenue perspective, we actually had $1 million more than what we budgeted, but from an expenditure standpoint, we had $5.4 million in expenditures more than we had budgeted, which resulted in a $4.3 million reduction of fund balance. At the end of the year, we had a $2.1 million fund balance after 23-24. This is the format that is included in the audit. This is the way they break things down. It's not necessarily the same format that we use for budget purposes, but I wanted to provide this because it's in the audit for you to see. But we've been through conversations on, what happened and where did the spending go overboard. And this is broken down closely to functions, so where. And as you can see, the largest areas in regular instruction. Business services isn't necessarily business services, but it's things like buildings and grounds and capital projects and that sort of thing. So as we've said before, all the expenditures were for good purposes, valid purposes, but unfortunately weren't within the budget parameters. And that's all I have.
Questions or comments for Kristen? Yeah, Philip.
I just have a follow-up comment for the board's information. When the audit report was initially brought to F&O, one of the things that we asked Kristen to provide to the committee prior to the audit report coming to the board was evidence that the material weakness on reconciliation had been rectified. Mm-hmm. And so I just wanted to share that was provided prior to this presentation. And so the committee was able to confirm that we are actually reconciling as we should be. So I think it's important to call that out and make sure everyone's aware that.
Or put differently,
that we've addressed.
It shouldn't be a material weakness moving forward.
Correct. Right. The material weakness has been addressed, and we asked for evidence of that as part of our committee.
It did take us a while to get there. Starting in July, we weren't able to really get things cleaned up until December. So I can't say it won't be a highlight in the audit because it did take a while to get there. But we are doing monthly budget reports with F&O so that they can see how we're tracking to budget, and that essentially is showing that we've reconciled. But I'm also attaching some summary documents showing that we've reconciled our bank statements to our book statements. So.
It's a big day.
Yeah.
Eric.
Kristen, can you give me an idea when we're looking at regular instruction, right, and that variance of $2 million or so? is that primarily labor, the way that we have organized our classes? Just a little bit more about like what exactly that was?
So like I said, you can break down the budget in various ways. And so this is sort of the where, and you can also do what, which would be object. Without having that what in front of me, it's hard to pull out the pieces directly related to instruction. And the auditors summarized it in somewhat of a different way. But the big areas were open enrollment, expenditures weren't budgeted for. We were over in expenditures for salary and benefits, a lot of supplies that weren't budgeted for, capital projects. So it's really varies throughout the whole entire.
So that regular instruction includes all those things and probably.
Yeah, it's everything probably in the 110 and 120,000 function, which is, teachers, regular elementary teachers, and middle and high school teachers.
But not capital.
But not capital projects.
Not capital projects, no. That would be in the business services area.
And I'm aware of the open enrollment issues and concerns. I wonder if you could just give a brief overview of how that can impact the district if we're not pre-planning for that or don't account for it.
Sure. So open enrollment is really a transfer of aid from district to district. So if you have open enrollment kids coming to your district, the resident district gets a decrease in aid, $9,000 per student. That's sent to our district for open enrollment students. We also have open enrollment students that go out, and that's an expenditure that we have to reflect on our books that wasn't reflected. So it was an error in budget building and management in that year. But every year we have about $1 million of open enrollment expenditure, and the line item was zero.
You're saying half of this regular instruction is potentially.
It could be if the auditor included open enrollment in that. That's typically a 400,000 function. So that.
If it's $1 million, it can't be anywhere else, right?
Yeah, true.
And it's not a contract. So
Yeah.
And back to what you said, Philip, that is one of the things that's been rectified. And
No, that's a budgeting problem that she's talking about. What we.
Well, still, my question is, has it been?
But just to clarify, what I was talking about was the material weakness that the auditor found, which was that we weren't reconciling our bank statements.
Got it.
We weren't proving that we were spending the money we budgeted.
And that's been
taken care of and proven to the committee.
And has the open enrollment thing been?
We've budgeted for open enrollment.
So you will see when I bring forward the preliminary budget for 25-26 that there will be, and there is in this revised 24-25 budget. But one thing to keep, I know I keep reminding you, but we have a $1.5 million deficit in the 24-25 budget, but the open enrollment cost is in there.
Okay, thank you.
And I just wanted to thank Philip for talking about the material weakness, because that was going to be my question. So thank you for addressing that, because I was like, is it still going on? So thank you both for clearing that up.
Thank you, as always, for your work, Kristen. I know that it's been a lot. And I will say, to me, this feels like kind of the turn page piece, right, to some of the lingering pieces where it's like, now we're moving forward, right, and in ways that will be sustainable and make sense. And we would not have gotten there without you, so we really appreciate you. Thank you. All right, next up, our policy updates first reading.
Yes, so we have had 2 policy committee meetings, and what you have in front of you is one of the packet of Neola updates. You can see the most of them behind it. You'll see if it's revised, renamed, or a new policy. Below is copies of those policies for the community to be able to see. And then down in your below that is also then the grid that talks about what were the major changes. So I guess I would ask how you would like to proceed given the quantity. Or, you all read them and just have questions.
So I would say if there are any questions kind of on a broad scope or clarification, let's discuss that. If folks have specific recommendations for different changes in language. Just as a reminder, our policy is to email those in writing to the policy committee. But questions that folks have? Yeah, Philip.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could elaborate on the two policies that are getting rescinded related to the due process rights and student complaints. I was just
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Context.
So due process rights really outlines what is the due process for a student who is being disciplined, and it is right in our suspension and expulsion policy. So it's redundant for it to stand alone. The same with the student complaint policy. If you read that policy, it's being rescinded because it just lists all the policies you should go to file a complaint. So
nothing is
It's like the
changing.
policy to get to the policies to have a complaint.
That's what I was hoping. Thank you.
Yeah.
Gives you something else to complain about.
Exactly. Yeah.
Other questions?
I would just ask broadly to the members of the committee or Dr. Frederick, are there any changes here that are worth calling out to us specifically that that are more than just either language updates that are immaterial or or things that we have to do because of changes in state law? Is there anything that we should be that we may have missed reading through this that you dug into during policy?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we had conversations around was student acceptable use of their technology. The policy basically says students aren't supposed to use their email address for a third-party vendor. Facebook, those kind of things. And it says unless where permission is given. So we did have a conversation about where would permission be given. Perfect example of that is College Board. When students sign up for an AP exam or to check their stuff, they use their school email address. It's absolutely appropriate. So it's one of those things where kids can do it for those things. Are we checking if kids are using their Facebook accounts with that? They're not on Facebook, right? But if those kind of things, it's probably a little bit preemptive to have it in there if there is a problem, but for the most part, students use it for things that are school related, but to a third party where the kids have to use their own permission to share it. So that would be the most common use. So that one, and then I think that's it. Everything else was pretty clean.
Yeah, Janice.
So I have a question, and I'll just say I was unable to be at the policy meeting due to a family. But as I'm reading through the policy that you were talking about, it says users who disregard this policy and its accompanying guidelines may have their privileges suspended or revoked. So I know that back when I was teaching, that was sometimes a struggle because students needed their technology to participate in class. So do we have alternative, if a student is okay, you're not being responsible with your technology, we're going to take it away from you. Can we actually do that and still have them learn things?
Yeah, so a couple of things. We can take away a kid's email address at any point and say you can't have one. For students who are maybe misusing technology but still need access to them for some point, you can lock computers down, what's called guided access. And so they're only able to access certain things. So you can give it to them, they can do that, you can take it back. So it is doable. It's not simple, but it is something that we can easily do.
Thank you.
Yes.
I think I'm able to access AI through my school account, and that I could be wrong because this is a personal device, but is that a decision that you guys made, and what thought went into that?
Yeah, so we do have an AI policy, and obviously we know that AI is a tool that's used for a lot of different ways. I like to liken it back to any other assistive technology that's been out there. Spell check is AI, right? I think where kids have to be educated and families need to be on board with that is, it's one thing to write something, put it in AI and ask them to, clean up the grammar and the spelling. If you're not being graded on grammar and spelling, that's not an issue and it's your content. I think the issue is when you put in the prompt and say, write me a 7-page paper on this, right? That's not your content and that is academic dishonesty and would be further disciplined that way. So we don't take the stance that it should be locked down because it's everywhere. Right. And if you can't get here, they're going to pull your phone out and do it. So, our work is to teach kids what it does and what it doesn't do. And it's really around what is plagiarism, what is copyright, and all of those kind of things.
I would just add, Lena, for your benefit, that the other issue with generative AI is privacy, right? So when you put prompts into it, if you include any kind of personal data, that personal data is now no longer yours. You've just put it on their server for infinity, in theory, right? So you do have to be careful what you put in the prompts with the AI.
I like how you leave it up to students to decide how to manage their own learning. Yeah, cool.
With the caveat of we need to teach kids how to manage the tool, to use it as a tool, not as replacing your own learning. So, yeah.
Good question. Susan.
Well, I was just going to say, in kind of in response to Philip's question, again, part of this thing is we get these revisions from the company that we contract with, which is Neola, and they use a full legal staff to follow the statutes. So, for instance, generally, and Rochelle and can particularly speak to this after we went through, and we really missed you, we went through 15 the other day in an hour and a half, which was amazing. And that means you're doing 3+ hours of work before you walk in there. But basically, generally, if you ask me what the changes were due to, particularly these, even the rescissions, is for clarification, or there was a change in statutory or DPI requirements. And those would sometimes result in major changes, but we look at a policy and it would say, she, hers, and it would be changed to the words employee. Sometimes it's that simple. And if we get one that's even moderately complex, we hold it. So for instance, there's one that we were working on that's like a 20-page policy, and the administrative work that was done on it was very high level. So when we looked at it as a committee with the changes that had been suggested in writing by a board member, it was difficult to hone out the exact locations for that, and we were going to try and cover 20 policies. So we held that one. Not that it wouldn't be easy, but that's basically what we're looking at. Come join us anytime. Absolutely anytime.
Speaking of holding policies, just a clarifying question, because I see the gifted and advanced learning. And my understanding was that
I just sent Tish a note. Okay. Yeah, that's not on there for first read.
Yeah, we held that, right?
Yeah, we held that one. So, yep, that will come next time.
No problem. I just wanted to clarify because I saw it on there.
Well, and again,
Other
I'd like
questions on the policies? No. Okay.
big thanks to Tanya for the incredible amount of work she did on these, and for the committee who comes and they look at you should see these. Some of these, it's just a few red outs and a few greens. Greens meaning new, red out meaning it's gone.
It's good. It's a good committee. They do great work.
It's amazing.
All right, moving on to action items. K1, employment contract for Director of Primary Teaching and Learning.
Yes, so we, as you know, Dr. Hype has put in her resignation for retirement. So thank you to her for her over 10 years of service. We, through a reorg that we did earlier, we had made the decision to move from a director and 2 coordinators to 2 directors. It was a savings in overall budget, but I think it also gave us the opportunity to find 2 people that really have a passion for elementary and secondary to team together and think about what that horizontal and vertical alignment looks. So I'm kind of going to just talk about this as a package.
And then we'll do the motions separately.
Then you can go through the motions one at a time. So through that process, we're super excited to announce that Angie Fassel will be our Director of Elementary. And that will be starting July 1st for all of these shifts. She has been the proud principal of Winnequa for many, many years, so a constant there. So a little bit hard to walk away from that, but she'll still be working with that staff. So we're super excited about that. For Director of Secondary, we welcome Dr. Rob Meyer, who will be coming to us. He has many years of experience as a director, and look forward to having him really spend time with our secondary and working towards there. So with Angie's shift, that did create an opening at Winnequa. And we announced to the staff last week that the recommendation to you tonight would be that John Hagan, current AP at Granite Ridge, would be named the new principal at Winnequa. That opens up 2 AP jobs that we hope in May will be coming to you for approval for a new AP for Granite Ridge. And then Emily Kinzer, who has been the AP at Winnequa, just took a new job, promotion to Director of Curriculum Instruction, hot topic lately, in McFarland. So the shifts are happening. So tonight we have the contract for employment for Angie, for Rob, the announcement about John, and then also his, he already has an administrative contract. So his is a compensation change from going from AP to principal. So that would be 1 through 4.
Yeah, can I get a motion, please?
I move approval of the employment contract for Director of Primary Teaching and Learning as presented.
Any further discussion? Any opposition to voice vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Congratulations, Angie. Next up, can I get a motion, please?
Approval of the employment contract for Director of Secondary Teaching and Learning as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Welcome aboard, Rob. Next up, number 3, administrator assignment. Can I get a motion, please?
I move approval of the administrator assignment as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Excited for John. And then item number 4, the individual administrator compensation.
Guess I'm up again.
I mean,
I move approval of the individual administrator compensation as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it. Motion is carried. Nice work getting all those filled, and congratulations.
I'm super excited.
I am too. It's going to be great.
Building a great team. It's going to be great.
All right, next up, policy updates, second reading.
Yeah, this came from Finance and Operation. It is the second read. It is an update to our procurement policy, and it is required language that we needed to add based on feedback from the Department of Public Instruction for us to be compliant. So we'd be looking for a motion to approve the revision.
Can I get a motion to approve?
I move to approve, approve the revisions of policy 6325 as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? Voice vote, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Next up, the 2024-2025 fee schedule. Welcome back, Kristen. We missed you these last several action items.
So as we been having conversations all year, really thinking about feedback that we got from the community, what are things to be looking at, things that people felt needed to be brought back or adjusted, fees for different things that happen across the district have come up. So Kristen and her team has been working on setting what would be the recommendations from administration on fees starting for the 25-26 school year. And Kristen has prepared suggested fees. We also have added comparable fees. So this is another place where comparables come in handy because it just kind of helps you, what's the tenor of what happens in the region? What are people doing? We don't want to be the highest, we don't want to be the lowest, we just want to be in the middle. So I'll turn it over to Kristen.
Thank you. There's 2 documents attached. One is the proposed fees for the 25-26 school year. The other is the comparable fee chart. Now, that is a document that was shared among districts, and as you can see from it, some people responded to some and not all. And we really, so we got the information that we have. I know there's some areas where there's not a lot of information, but this chart was used to get us to a place that was more towards the average than we currently are. If we go to the proposed fee, this is, I have both the 24-25 fees for consumables, as you can see there. Our 4K was $15. I did propose an increase to that of $30. Again, I'm sort of looking at the comparables there. K-12 remained at $37. I think high school average is probably higher, but just overall it was kind of nice to have the same fee K-12, I think, than change it middle and high and elementary and all that. Athletic gate fees stay the same. We are recommending an increase to the athletic pass from $40 per year to $55 per year. The athletic fee at the high school is currently $65 per sport. The recommendation is $85 per sport with a max of $170. So if you do 3 sports, you get 2 for, buy 2, get 1 free sort of thing. Athletic fee at the middle school would stay the same. By the bus seat, this was a recommendation based on our cost per rider for the 24-25 year, which is actually based on data from 23-24, was $912.92. And so that is calculated using a DPI calculation, and that is used for the district to pay parochial private school families. If we don't provide a bus, we have to pay the family for each student $912.92. So that's what we're using for that purpose. So that is also used as we look at buy a bus seat to, what is a fair, so to speak, rate to charge. And so, some people will say, well, $912.92. There is something to say about the fact that, there are empty seats on the bus. And so I sort of likened it to open enrollment seats. And so to have some kind of rationale for what the proposal is, I looked at what's the revenue we get per student for open enrollment students compared to per resident student. And it was about 60% and that's how I got to the $300 per year one way, $600 per year, or for the whole year round trip. Sorry. So we have some one way, some round trip. So that's the rationale behind that. And then recommended to keep the parking fee the same. Do have some changes with regard to optional fees, which are those athletic and by the bus seat. It's new to say that the optional fees, our recommendation is those are not waived because they are optional. The recommendation is that they're not waived. We have a lot of students that by the bus seat, those fees have been waived, like thousands and thousands of dollars. Our recommendation is because it's optional, that it not be waived. But again,
Clarifying question.
Sure.
Under what circumstances would that bus fee be waived?
If they qualify for free and reduced lunch, they submit an application that allows us to look at that data. Also, if families have particular circumstances that they wouldn't qualify for free and reduced lunch, we work with the guidance counselor or social worker to verify that. So those are the cases that it has been in the past.
Or like ability to pay waivers?
Yes, yeah. But that's new. So if just want to point that out to the board so that it would be new if you want to do that or not. Senior citizens and students attend free of charge for all the athletic events, unless it's WIA, because we have to pay WIA for that. So it's not something the district can waive. And then we also have additional fees that are assessed through the course guide. And it would be courses that like Tech Ed, where they're building a lot of things with a lot of material. It's consumables. It's just more than the regular consumables. So those are outlined in the course guide. We'll also bring forward fees related to lunch and breakfast at the next F&O meeting. I hope to bring those forward as well as pool fees and facility fees. So still more fee discussion to come.
Are we going to talk library too? I guess that's more fine than fee.
It is, and it's dependent upon, you know, the cost of the book.
Okay.
So it's the replacement cost that we would charge for that.
My understanding is we don't have anything that says we don't, we just stopped.
Correct.
Charging for replacement fees for lost books.
It's a little bit of a word doc, it's fine, not a fee. So I will
Yeah.
move us back on agenda. Move me back to being on point. Yes, Janice.
So it says the optional fees are not waived, and optional fees includes like sports fees. So like if a student wants to play sports and their family can't afford it, are we allowing them to play sports?
We are right now, and we still would work with the families on athletic fees, but not parking fees and buy a bus fee. I should have delineated that.
Okay, because those are different things.
Yeah.
and- Okay.
Yeah, I just want to say, I really appreciate that question and the clarity there that I don't want ability to pay to interfere with anyone's ability
Yeah, absolutely.
athletics or any activity really.
Right, student engagement.
Exactly. Sorry, Philip.
I was just going to ask, do we know in the area, is there a pattern to the whole waiving of bus seats? Is that something that's unusual that we do currently? Is it
The buy the bus
some
seat?
districts waiving the buy a bus seat? Yeah.
That I don't know. Other districts offer, a couple offer, and it's much less expensive, but our district is very unique in having Cottage Grove and Monona, and our costs are much higher than theirs. But I don't know whether or not they do have that waiver. I could find out.
Common practice or not?
I would be interested in just knowing, and I don't think you have to give a formal report on it, but just update the board on that. I think when I think about ability to pay and transportation and in the context of chronic absenteeism, particularly for our resident students, I think for open enrollment students, maybe it's a different discussion, but I would be curious to see what that is, because similarly, in the same way that access to athletics, I don't want access to school being a challenge because folks can't pay for a bus, right? And so I think we need to think through that a little bit, particularly, like I said, within the context of our already problematic chronic absenteeism numbers. I wouldn't want to see those.
I think any data that you can put around that would be interesting. Like, what percentage of those seats are open enrolled students versus resident students?
Well, that you have, that you know.
Yes.
But
Not
I
off
don't
the top
have
of your
it
head.
right off the top of my head right
No,
now.
this is not like, this is like you can go back to your office and then email us. Yeah. okay.
I just wanted to jump into with the buy a bus seat. These are for folks who are opting to, they live within the walking distance of the school. So when you do talk about, folks that are having transportation issues, in theory, according to our policy, these kids should be able to walk or bike. So that is a consideration too.
Yes, Susan.
So I just want to clarify, again, particularly if the audience is watching, that basically we're looking right now at were we looking at this slide or the fee changes?
This is the fee changes, so you can see the 2024-25 and the proposed
Okay.
in the next column.
Okay. Just because with basically the two documents, I wanted to make sure that people could see that. And then the other thing that might be helpful, I'm talking about not so much for the board members, because we can ask you that question, but when we do an increase, for instance, on the 4K consumable fee, and we go from a current fee of 15 to a proposed fee of 30, if there's just a statement down there that states, so that when they look at this document, they can see that instead of asking you specifically what's the rationale for that increase, we could see that. So
Sure.
for instance, the rationale for that increase is,
is that in comparable districts, the fee is much higher for consumables, and for 4K, we're using a lot of materials.
Like it's all
That's probably more expensive.
The whole curriculum is consumable.
All those tambourines.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that it's, again, showing that our rationale is based on the fact that this is, the rationale being, this is an example of costing to us. And just because when you look at the K5 and it's 37 and then 4K is 30, and you're just looking at this document and that's the only backup information you have. For parents, I think it might be helpful to just have a statement saying, this is due to.
I think a simple solution, maybe, Kristen, is just to like reference the other document on this one.
Sure.
You know, that's because then it's there and, you know, then people can see kind of where the numbers come from since they're separate.
Where it came from, exactly. And then we can just reference them to the documents because, you know, we are going to get a couple of questions.
Yeah, I think it's a good suggestion, Susan. Any other questions about this? I have one quick one. I know that we max out for athletic fees, for example. Is it a practice ever to max out on consumable fees per family? You know, if you've got 5 kids in the district or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't seen that just because it's another student that they're using all the consumables.
I guess
so I have not.
Can I just make one more comment?
Yeah, go for
it. I just know this because my husband came home today and said a lot of the dental gloves are made in China, and with the tariffs, they're going to go up considerably. So do you feel like this will set us in a good spot because I guess I don't know where these consumables are coming from.
It's really hard to predict, you know, what the impact is going to be. So, you know, I could be coming back to you mid-year and saying the tariffs are causing a huge increase in supplies and this is going to be the impact on the budget. And we'll plan accordingly for 26, 27.
Okay. Can I get a motion, please?
I move approval of the 2025-2026 fee schedule as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, last action item is the 2025-2026 WIAA Cooperative Team Sponsorship of Boys and Girls Lacrosse. Is Joe here? No.
He's not. So I think I can speak to it. Kristen, you might be able to speak to it a little bit. So obviously the boys.
You know about lacrosse, Kristen.
Yeah, exactly. The boys lacrosse, is attached there. So continuing to, the co-op will move with just Edgewood to host and Monona in their co-op. So it will just be Monona and Edgewood. So that looks pretty clean. Lacrosse, there's 2 co-op options. One is Madison to continue with Edgewood and Monona Grove, or Madison will form one team and Monona, or Madison hasn't committed either way. So our suggestion or what we want to do is stay with the Edgewood part. So we would continue with Edgewood.
Right.
And Madison will do what Madison's going to do.
Right. So in this instance, if Madison decides to engage with us and Edgewood for the co-op, they do that on their own and no more action on our part.
Yeah, and I think as a board, you may have been getting some lacrosse emails about girls lacrosse, and those were Madison families about wanting us to stay.
Yeah.
And that's not the deal.
No.
So I think they're both pretty straightforward, but wanted to have that background there in case you're asked.
Yeah, that's helpful. Great. Can I get a motion, please?
I move approval of the 2025-2026 WIAA Cooperative Team Sponsorship of Boys and Girls Lacrosse as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I think it's cool that we have lacrosse.
Yeah, it's relatively new. It was like, what,
Was
2
it
years
last
ago?
year? Yep.
Was it last year they added it? Very.
That's really cool.
Know how many students we have that are
4
participating?
girls and I'm not even going to pretend to say boys. 2 boys, 4 girls.
But I told Kristen and Tanya, there is a cohort of U10 MG boys that are hitting it hard right now, so
Might
we'll
have
see.
our own team
I
by
was gonna
then.
say in 2032 or whatever. All right, I think we have a motion and a second, correct? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. All right, next up is informational item by exception only. I want to point out a new informational item. So traditionally, this has been board committee reports, but when we talked about enrollment, and monitoring our enrollment projections on a monthly basis, I had asked Tanya to include the monthly enrollment update as an informational item. I think it's cleaner and easier for the community to be able to see, to be able to pull out. If we have to just get a question, it's easier for us to do versus in the consent agenda or something like that. It also gives us the opportunity, not like you can't pull something out of the consent agenda to discuss it, but it gives us an easier, more streamlined opportunity to discuss should we have any questions. So if folks were wondering why this shows up here, you should expect it here every month, at least for a little while. And if we decide as a board this isn't the right spot for it or we want to do something different, then obviously we can do that.
So what you will find is just the background and the rationale that we committed to through Third Friday. So every month till that time, we will continue to bring forward where we're at with right in the moment current enrollment. So what you will see is the snapshot that I pulled Friday. So this is Friday mornings. And as we talked about, when a section average goes over the high end, it will pop red. So we're very pleased to say that at 4K right now at Taylor Prairie, we are a little over the goal. That is a spot where we have a full-time teacher that dropped down to part-time, and we can move her to full-time to rectify that. We are waiting for some confirmation on some of those to make sure. Want to remind people that it's early for us to have our staffing plan and these numbers out. Normally, we wouldn't even be looking at them. But because we haven't been looking at class size, we're now looking at it. We really wanted to make sure people knew, job expectations and those things as early as possible. Normally, that information would be coming out after this, between April and May.
Mhm.
So I know people are wondering why we're not jumping on this faster, and we're trying to remind people it's real early. This is the time of year when families know they're coming, they register. Families that know they're leaving have not done anything yet. So we're in this weird watch space. So we look at it every day. Let me tell you, the principals look at it every day, and that's great. That's why we have it. So other than that, everything is within range, and we'll continue to look at that. Some are, you look at, and it's different than it's been in the past. We continue to watch 7th grade at Glacial Drumlin, and we continue to watch 4th grade at Winnequa. We've gotten lots of letters about those, lots of love contacts. We're continuing to look at that. One of the things why you do this is, if you look at, for example, Winnequa's 5K, it's low, right? And so at some point, you have to start making some decisions about, is the section too low? And you move an FTE from there to another spot that might be high, as opposed to adding a whole nother FTE. Now, if we get to a point where we have to add a whole nother FTE because we have a bunch of kids,
it's a good problem to have.
That's a good problem to have. But again, it's early, and reminding people we didn't workforce reduction any elementary teachers to call them back. So people aren't waiting in the wings.
Right.
And so we continue to monitor this. Now, we don't want to sit until July or even June and miss some hiring opportunities, but we also know we've got we don't have a complete enough picture in our situation to make a move. But we watch it and we hear what people are saying, and we'll continue to do that. Questions on this?
Questions from anyone?
Okay. The other document that we added was a snapshot of where we are with course selection and sections that we're running. I think, as you heard tonight, we've been running a lot of courses that have been below kind of that area of, the bottoms kind of, it's 22. And we've talked about, 1,169 students make 7.5 credits of choices every year. And so that's over like 8,900 selections. We got to try to get to 22 that want that selection so we can run it. And I think, comments about really maybe more niche classes. To that point, we have to do a better job of saying, digital music runs these years and music theory runs these years, right? So they go opposite. So kids have, in your 4-year time, those are there. Junior, senior, you can have those opportunities. The other thing I think we need to do is, or we will be doing, is that this summer, really working with staff to think about how do we go backwards and look at, every year there's courses that don't run. This isn't new. It is a bigger amount of courses because we were running courses as low as 4. And remember, we had 22 overloads. And so that we have to work forward on that practice. Now, communication of these changes and what that means for kids, absolutely 100%, not wrong. We are working on a communication that will go, staff always get a newsletter the day after the board meeting, so that will go. And then Katie is working on getting a communication out to our 6-8 parents, mostly the high school parents, about what does the class policy mean? What does it look like when we make decisions about what classes are run or not? The music department made the decision to run digital music this year, not music theory, right? So departments have those decisions as we look at like what makes sense, because you're also looking at, if we don't run this class, there's these 4 kids, they have to go somewhere else. So there's lots of nuances to it. But cleaning up, not giving kids choices of classes that haven't been running for a while. We need to move those out. We need to think about, what do teachers feel kids would like to take as electives? What maybe our industry is looking for? What are kids saying they want to do? And then how do we bring those course proposals into the boardroom in the fall so that they're in the course guide as we get that published? Because kids make these selections in January. The number of kids in those sections drive what we need for staff, right? High school kids vote with their feet. It is a fact, and we have to recognize that. In the course book, we also need to put minimum class enrollment sizes on classes, so when kids register for it, we need to do a better job of kids understanding when you pick your alternative classes, like you might use them, right? And if you have an alternative class on there, the normal process is and a student has a class that's not going to run, you use that alternative class. If those classes and their own classes aren't working, you usually call the child in. I think this year it has been hard getting in touch with families and having the time to do that. We have some process improvements, and that's work we have to do this summer into the fall so that we're ready to do this. So you can see what we did in here is 22 is kind of the bottom, unless you have a specialized class that uses like saws. Then the cut might be 16. But you can see we are running classes that are smaller. So if it's in red, it means we used 18 as kind of the guideline. We didn't even go to 22 because 22 felt like so far from 12. So looked at that. So you can see classes that, aren't running and maybe had 13 kids in it. Those were conversations that the building administration had about, what do we run? Because where do those 13 kids go? And so those are very nuanced conversations that they have at the buildings of them deciding what was going to run or not based on, where else kids would go.
Red is not running?
So red means it's below 18. Okay. Next to it where it says like 00, that means that there's not a section of it. So you'll see some classes that are in red that are running, like right there. Acapella choir's running, it's 14. Now, other thing to note, these course enrollment numbers are from course requests. The schedule's not final yet. I believe they have a meeting with the Infinite Campus on the 24th. It'll get finalized. I'll bring it back around to you. It'll be what are the courses running and what did the class size end up being for how many kids are in it, and then what did the sections ended up looking like for average class size. So we will have that for May. So.
Questions or comments? Yeah, go ahead, Janice.
I remember a long time ago when I was in high school, the only opportunity I had to take French 4 was when they had a combined French 3 and French 4 class. I'm wondering if there are some classes that might not run if they're.
Yeah, they merged quite a few.
Okay.
There's like a yearbook example, right?
Yeah, so yearbook runs really small. A lot of conversation about why are we running yearbook? I think one semester there's 5, the other semester there's 7. Well, if it's not the viewpoint, I'm curious what you would think about this. But that if it's not part of a class, there's not going to be a club that does the yearbook, and there's not going to be a yearbook. And building administration said, I think we need to leave it, even if it's going to be a small class, because that's a culture. Kids look forward to that. That's kind of a passage of high school to have a yearbook. But yearbook club really isn't a thing anymore. So photography had a small amount of people. And so the teachers got together and said, how about we put those together? It doesn't create an overload. That's an opportunity. So they did those things. You'll see other examples. Can you scroll up, Tish? There's some examples in art. See where they put ceramics 1 and 2, art 2 and 3 are together. So they did some good combining. They had to do some hard work that they haven't done in the past, and I am not saying it was easy. Thinking about it way differently. And so you can see they worked through those things. In places where maybe one class was this and one class was that, and it was like we have enough room to have another section, and one has 15 and one has 13, they may have decided to run the 13 one because they knew more kids would want that as an alternative. So when we get the cleaned up numbers and you can kind of see where everything landed, I think you can see that. It's a huge puzzle to put together. I know when kids get to those high level capstone classes, the World Language Department made a cognitive decision to not have Spanish 5 and move to AP.
Okay.
So that was done in the fall, and that went through the board. So we have some breakdowns in what those changes are, and we can work through those, but that was something that happened last year. Happened, moving into this year, because AP Spanish is considered more rigorous and gives you that college credit that you can then go to college, and that's a pretty high level that you can get at. So there's things like that. So we have different things. We did start with, I think we had 3 overloads as we went back into looking at course requests and things. The staff came back with, if we do this and we do that, so we were able to bring back on 7 different opportunities. And I think it ended up creating about 4 additional overloads. So we've made progress from 22 to I think we're at 8 right now because of one is a French at the middle school. So we've made progress. We've got a lot of work to do, and just process-wise and people understanding what this looks like. And clean up that handbook, put some language in there about people understanding when classes run or don't. So we will do better with working on that.
Susan.
So again, when you look at this the way it's presented to me, if I were a parent, because again, similar to what I had mentioned before, I think it's a little difficult to understand where you may go or what you might do with this information. So an example is basically 2 music classes, 24-21 and 24-22 ACAP choir. And you have 14 in one and 14 in the other. And it's marked red. How do we know that whether you're going to not offer either?
Right here it says there's going to be one section.
Yeah. So the number of sections, Susan, if the number of sections is 0, that class isn't running because there aren't any sections of it.
Okay, perfect.
And then if you read the background, that explains the document.
That's great.
And I would just point out, Susan, that, I mean, I understand, and I've been reflecting a lot on the comment that was made earlier during public comments around, there are public-facing documents, and then there are documents that are designed for like real people, right? And regular people that don't engage in this way. And I would posit to say that this is one of those documents that, while public-facing, it is not intended to be digestible, be-all, end-all for families.
That is great.
Yeah, and so I think, but that comment is a relevant one and an important one, and Tanya, you and I can loop back on kind of how we do better in our post communications, but just putting that out there that like, I wouldn't expect families to necessarily like get this, receive this, organize around this.
I think the biggest thing is just helping people understand the amount of students that requested it, right? So drawing and painting, 113 kids, that's 6 sections. Like, that's a really robust experience. And then, you know, you pop down and you've got 7 kids that then looked at, was it drawing and painting, advanced drawing and painting. So those are the things that we think about, like what are the other opportunities that when kids get to that level? Is that an early college credit class? Is that a start college now? When kids have really career paths that they really want to continue working on.
I mean, it's interesting to think about too, and you know, there's a point in which this becomes sort of more operational and too nuanced for the board. But I think an important thing to think about with like ceramics, for example, right? Like not running a ceramics run, which makes sense because we only had 6 kids that did it, but clearly there was enough interest in ceramics at some point where you have, you know, 5 sections of higher level ceramics. And so as we're thinking about which courses like offload, being mindful of like the pipelining for that, because you can't get to ceramics 2 or 3 if you never had ceramics 1, right? So just some of those like conversations around programming and thinking about offering, I think
department level,
yes.
That's department level work. And
Yeah.
that's where we have to work with, the building principals need to work with the teachers. Now, when we were just not making those decisions, we were like, we have enough, we're just gonna run them all.
Right.
We're just gonna give everyone overloads and.
Yeah. And
It's not typically how business is done, and understand that we teach people how to behave, and that was past practice, but we're just not there.
Yeah, no.
We can't be asking teachers to, you're not gonna you're gonna have 20 kindergartners because, right? And then be like, oh, we're running high school classes of this.
No, I think
kind
there's
of
a
level
lot of
specialty.
there's
Some-
equity pieces there for sure. Okay. Other questions?
And could I just
Hold on a second, Susan.
clarify too?
Susan, can you wait? Because I think, sorry, Janice, you look like you're about to say a thing and I didn't want to.
I do have a thing.
Yeah, proceed with your thing.
Okay. One of the things from one of our speakers earlier tonight really spoke to me, and it was like how students, you know, plan their classes over 4 years, and then, you know, you get to you get through most of the things you have to take and you get electives. And I think we just need to be more transparent about like what is going to actually be available to people when they get to the point where they can actually take their electives.
Yeah, and I think
You know-
that's where getting that course handbook cleaned up, where it talks about like digital music runs on the even years or the odd years. Like we can clean all that up. You know, and we don't go backwards and take classes that aren't running or are too small and take them off the books. We just keep setting kids up for that. So we need to clean that up. We also need to see what might be more interesting from kids, and that's what the departments know best, and that's what we have to work on. So I think we can get there.
Yeah, go ahead, Rochelle.
Has there, and you probably have done this or thought of doing this, but have there been many student polls as to what they would be interested in having offered?
Yeah, I'm really used to that being, you know, departments would do like listening sessions and have conversations. And so actually, Dr. Meyer and I talked about that this afternoon about this summer, you know, what does that need to look like? Not only teacher input about what teachers feel students need in their programming areas, but then also what's student interest.
Mm-hmm. Could there be, I'm just shooting off the hip, but is there like for band, they used to do an instrument zoo? Is that what it was that they'd call it? Do you know? But anyway, so it was an opportunity for kids.
Sorry.
Was it that? Petting zoo for instruments, yeah. So the students could kind of have, thank you.
Sorry.
some opportunity to kind of see what this actually was instead of this term on a paper. But I'm just curious, like,
exploratory art, for example.
Yeah, I mean, just like, okay, let's have an open art wing day, and we can kind of just show you what we can offer.
I remember this. I remember Miss Stone and band students came into my whatever grade it was. I got to try out like a
Fifth
trumpet
grade.
mouthpiece, 5th grade. And I chose the oboe and I was so excited. Yeah, it was really helpful.
But I just think that sometimes people may think they're going down one path, and then all of a sudden, having an opportunity to see what happens in the art room or the music room, that can be a...
Susan.
Well, again, I was just, so under the 912 note, the language we're using at this time is, at the time of publication, a current draft wasn't available. It will be posted. So this specifically says the final master schedule is in the process of completion. This information will be posted prior to the, so.
Yeah, I think what Tanya said is that they're not ready yet. They're hoping to be ready by this meeting for a final, but they're still finalizing.
So
Another update after that.
document is not the.
Yeah, there's another update from 414
Right.
that indicates this is
It's
just
a
a draft.
draft.
I just wanted to clarify that, so if other people are looking at this and they don't look at it very, very carefully, they may make an assumption that's not correct. So I just want clarification. Thanks a lot. That helps a ton.
Right, anything else on this? Yes, Lena.
So just on a general note, it's not like, oh, for this department, there's only a certain number of classes you can have. It's about like student requests and then how many class sizes we can accommodate or
Yeah,
sections and whatnot.
Yeah, and a little bit of like from an operations perspective, right? It's like we want to be able to provide students as many opportunities as we can while maintaining class sizes that feel reasonable, right? Like imagine move out of the public school world, right? Like you sign up for activity in Parks and Rec, and if there's only 2 people, they don't run the class, right? So it's sort of thinking about how do we apply that lens as well, so that we're still providing robust opportunities, but in ways that are reasonable for workload, and then help us manage like the fiscal aspects of it.
Yeah, but it's not like there are like set requirements. It's based on like demand for the coming year.
Yeah, now obviously if a student needs a class to graduate, like English 10, we're going to have as many English 10 sections as we need to get that. When you get to the electives where kids pick, this is where it gets tricky. So we've talked a lot about class sizes for 4K through 8th grade. Talks a lot about that. I think one of the things that I've learned is this is the part of the puzzle we haven't spent a lot of time on as an organization. And so when you look at this, it says suggested range for 9th through 12th grade is 22 to 30 with your wanted to be 26. Obviously PE is a little bit bigger. Some of your machine-based courses, you want to be smaller. There's not enough equipment. There's not enough stations. And then obviously
supervision problem, I would imagine.
And a little supervision, yeah, like don't lose a finger. So then choir, orchestra, and band, obviously those classes can have, they're usually like a band, right? You have lots of kids. So those are like what we're shooting for. And so you can see like that's where it kind of put on this end where it's like if there's, again, out of 1,169 kids, if at least 22 kids aren't interested in that course, that where merits a discussion. Yeah, it's no different than if you go to the rec, right? Or the park and rec, right? They're not running classes when they don't have capacity, some of those things. So college is not different. So really thinking about how are they robust opportunities and then enough kids that want to do it. So.
Any other questions about this? I know we'll continue to discuss it. We'll continue to see it. We've gotten a lot of community feedback about it as well. And so I think this is an important thing for us to just continue to keep top of mind.
Yeah, and I'll have the final numbers for sections and courses in May.
I want to be mindful that the board is getting at the 3-hour mark. And so just as a reminder, these are informational items. So I'll go through the committees, but certainly feel free to say, we've already covered all the things. So do you have any updates for TLE?
I just was going to say, we just had the literacy, the K through 3 literacy presentation. It's in the board docs if anybody's interested in seeing the number of students we have right now with personal reading plans, because we just implemented the Act 20 requirement. And you can see within that how many kids we're servicing, and I'm really excited that we have this happening, and I think it's going to really make our students great readers. So I'm really pleased with that.
And just to add to that, so the board is aware, I had asked Dr. Frederick during either the board update in the next couple of weeks, in addition to the presentation at TLE, to give us information on who has cycled in, off, and up and down, because that's part of Act 20. And we should have gone through at least one 10-week cycle at this point. So I'm just kind of curious what our progress is there too, which was not included in the TLE.
But we should also be seeing numbers, hopefully this summer, as to how our readers have increased their reading skills.
Yeah, so the next part is they'll pop into the 45 days before the end of the school year have to be reassessed. So we'll get our update on so probably every time we have to do that, the 3 increments, we'll talk about how many students have, exceeded the 25th percentile. Great. That's probably a better mark than the 10-week one.
Yeah, that sounds good. Great. F&O, I know we talked quite a bit earlier today around audit report. Peter's not here, but anyone from the F&O committee have anything that they want to add in addition to what we already discussed today?
No, I don't think there's, that was really the main headline. We had a meeting on the books for next week. We're going to cancel that. We will be scheduling the next F&O committee meeting after the reorg, once we know what the membership looks like. So no meetings on the calendar as of right now. Tish, I'll send an email to the membership, letting them know that next week is canceled.
Thanks for doing that, Paul.
Yeah.
Eric, personnel updates?
Had a presentation on the healthcare plan update. I don't know what you call it, healthcare plan for next year.
Yeah.
Then we had a couple job description updates, which we'll bring to the board. Our next meeting is on May 7th, and the CPI is set at 2.95%.
And
what was the percentage?
2.95.
Great.
Which is what we use for
budgeting, right? Yeah.
Salary, so.
Great. Thank you, Eric. Susan, I know that we went through first read and second read with policy.
Covered everything.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Great. All right. You are up, Tanya. Any additional things you want to add from your superintendent's report?
Yep. No, I think it's just, further explanation of kind of where we're headed, why we're doing what we're doing. Some information that might be helpful as you are in conversations with families about high school course selection. It just kind of walks through the process and how decisions are made, and more importantly, what's the work that we have to do moving forward. So.
Great. Thank you. Okay, future meeting dates. So as a reminder, because our schedule is a little bit strange coming up, a little bit different. So the reorganizational meeting is on Monday, the 28th at 6 p.m. So as a reminder, that's when we'll set all of our officer positions. We'll also talk about meeting dates at that time. So particularly for those of you who have more mobile or less flexible schedules, please be thinking about what days and times work for you for board meetings.
And just something to be thinking about. I know that Katie has been working with Cottage Grove, and Wednesday nights are not an option.
Okay.
And so I believe their recommendation was Tuesday nights.
Okay.
The second Tuesday of the month.
Okay.
And then we would go between here and there on even or odds or whatever you wanted to do. So.
They had some preferences just because of elections.
Yeah, of course.
So
Yes.
They definitely have some more preferences.
So we'll have the discussion, obviously at the reorg meeting, but be mindful of that as a potential, as you're kind of moving into that.
Second Tuesday.
Janice, did you have a question?
No, just, and we'll obviously discuss this, whether we would be always on Tuesdays or sometimes on Tuesdays and sometimes on Wednesdays, always on.
For Cottage Grove, but we could theoretically do Wednesday
I
here,
think
right?
that's really hard for humans.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying.
I'm not sure I know where I'm supposed to be.
Theoretically.
I wouldn't prefer that.
That was
for my
why I'm
own
asking.
Well,
planning.
say, you know what, you all have a couple of weeks to get all your thoughts and feelings around that together, and we will talk about it at the reorg. And then also that week on the 30th, we're having a special board workshop with our new auditor to walk through all of those pieces. And then we'll have the calendar set for this next board cycle. And so then we'll be able to predict meeting dates after that.
And I think we also want to try to pick meeting dates for all committees.
After reorg?
Have a suggestion.
What?
Committee meetings? Let's. No, because committee assignments won't. Yeah, because committee assignments won't be made.
Yeah, I think Kristen and I have been looking at like when, like if we're going to bring something into the boardroom, how much time before the board meeting does it need to hit the committee meeting? So for example, when we've had personnel right before it comes in the boardroom, like that doesn't feel great. So we want to give you some parameters of when things should happen.
Yeah, like a cadence.
So that we can get it, give you enough time to have access to it, and in committee, do your work, and then get it in the boardroom.
Also, think about the committee assignments that you may or may not want to have. Anything else for the good of the group before we close for today? I appreciate everyone's time today. It was a long meeting. A special thank you to our personnel committee who has been here since like 4:30.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
It's okay. Woo. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned at 9:05 p.m. Tish, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
It's next Monday.
Oh, man. I'm up.
Do you want to agenda?
I don't think so.
For real?
Yeah, the same standard agenda.
Oh,